Well, of course, nutrition and levels of physical exercise are absolutely key to preventing diabetes, type 2 diabetes that is, or indeed reversing it if you are unlucky enough to have acquired it. We're living at about 2,000 calories a day or even less, which is historically completely anomalous. Under those conditions, if you continue to eat carbs, and by that not just sugar, but starchy foods as well, baked goods, potatoes, rice, pasta, you're pouring far too much glucose into your blood and you can't take it out. So it accumulates, you get insulin resistance, and you move steadily towards diabetes, and then a whole range of problems because diabetes is a form of accelerated aging. It leads towards renal damage, kidney damage, Alzheimer's and the dementias, cardiovascular problems, peripheral neuropathies, blindness, a whole host of pathologies which are overwhelming our healthcare system. The drugs are useless. They help you to manage blood glucose, but they really don't solve the problems at all. If I had diabetes, type 2 diabetes, first of all, I'm going to increase my levels of physical activity. I'm going to reduce my intake of digestible carbohydrates, sugars and starches. The chronic inflammation that the diabetic condition creates is one of the very important factors that contributes to the problems that you run into once the diabetes has been floating around inside your system for a long time, including renal and liver disease, a range of cancers, cerebrovascular, cardiovascular problems, and all the rest. But the chronic inflammatory condition also affects muscle, skeletal muscle, and is now believed to be a rather important element in the development of sarcopenia, which is the loss of muscle that many of us incur as we age. And as the muscle becomes degraded and damaged and less functional, it becomes less able to function as a glucose sink. So the insulin resistance gets worse, which feeds back to the pancreas. And it's thought that the inflammatory climate may also damage the pancreas, leading to eventual failure of insulin production. So chronic inflammation is deeply involved in a set of metabolic vicious circles, which are involved in the setting up and the development of type 2 diabetes.
So why the emphasis from Dr. Clayton on this word inflammation? Well, chronic subclinical inflammation is now seen as the underlying cause of diabetes. Chronic just means long-term, and subclinical means non-detectable, which of course makes it even more dangerous. And that's confirmed by authorities. Low-grade inflammation is associated with everything from heart disease and diabetes to Alzheimer's and arthritis, and may even be the cause of most chronic age-related diseases. And Scientific American confirms inflammation is an underlying contributor to virtually every chronic disease: rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's disease, diabetes and depression, along with major killers such as heart disease and stroke. And inflammation of this type is now moving center stage in the research on cancer. Dr. Clayton himself says if this type of chronic inflammation is allowed to run unchecked, tissues become dysfunctional and then fail, which is essentially the definition of age-related disease and indeed aging. And unfortunately, if you're around 50 and over, you will have accumulated this type of inflammation. This type of inflammation, if it's not reduced, can lead to heart disease, stroke, cancer, dementia, diabetes, sexual dysfunction, osteoporosis, and indeed skin aging. Well, how do we go about reducing this type of inflammation? In dietary terms, you emphasize wholemeal, unrefined carbohydrates and fiber, with animal protein largely from fish and seafood, and fats mainly from plants or oily fish, and foods, and this is important, that are high in anti-inflammatory nutrients. And that's why Dr. Clayton has produced a cookbook which emphasizes these anti-inflammatory foods and ingredients. It's also why he's produced a nutritional supplement which is unique in combining rich levels of vitamins and minerals, but with additional anti-inflammatory and indeed antioxidant nutrients. They include such things as flavonoids from green tea, grapeseed extracts, and curcumin, which are powerful anti-inflammatories, soy isoflavones, omega-3 fatty acids from fish oil, which is a very powerful anti-inflammatory, and carotenoids like lutein and lycopene and many more. It's all-round protection, and it combines the lessons from the latest medical research with the sort of nutrients that have been identified from the foods in the world's healthiest, longest-lived societies. It's why the cookbook is given free with your first purchase of NutriShield, and we invite you to study more at NutriShield.com.